Hi guys, we're back with our weekly Q&A session. I'm Mally, I'm the head trainer at C-Spot Runs. So we're going to be talking today about dog body language and what you can do as a pet owner to keep your dogs safe if you decide to take them to off-leash dog parks or even for walks around the neighborhood, and using your ability to read dog body language to get a better understanding of how dogs are behaving and communicating to one another, and to respond appropriately to those communication signals. So this, I guess, was prompted by a couple of recent attacks that have occurred in our community, one of which was in an on-leash area, and the other one which was in an off-leash dog park in Mossman. And these attacks were pretty savage, and I got to thinking about, what can we do as a community to prevent these attacks from occurring with such frequency in the future. And certainly a lot of my thought process had a lot to do with the fact that in urban environments we are keeping more dogs as pets, especially as strata laws start to become loosened. And with this increase in dog presence, we obviously need to provide them with safe places to exercise physically and mentally. And so what do we do when we have these larger populations of dogs in an urban environment? And I really do strongly believe that the best thing we can do is do a better job of educating pet owners as to how they can train their dogs, but also develop better skills with regards to reading dog body language appropriately. And I think I have to respect the fact that not everybody realizes just how much information two dogs pass between one another using dog body language. Certainly we know that dogs express a lot of communication via smell, but also with the way that they carry their bodies. So I thought it was kind of important to spend a bit of time today talking about, how dogs use body language to communicate their feelings or their intentions. So let's start there. So when it comes to dog body language, general rule of thumb is that anything that's happening at the top of the head is going to give you a more accurate idea as to what's going on in that dog's head or mind, or what they're trying to express, than anything that you read down the length of the body. So the tail end is probably going to be the least accurate amount of information that you can garner from that end. So we'll start at the head. So the ears can give you lots of information. If a dog is carrying its ears back towards the back of its head, that's usually indicative of a dog that's feeling submissive, stressed, or anxious, or fearful. A dog that's carrying its ears quite forward and up is usually more confident, assertive, and dominant in their intentions. Obviously there's a lot of variance in different dogs' ears. Obviously a Cocker Spaniel has very different ears from a German Shepherd, but you can still get a good idea as to how your dog is feeling based on where those ears are being carried. Eyes. A dog that is using a hard stare towards another dog and not averting its gaze is usually one that I would think is a bit of a red flag. A very polite way that dogs use their eyes to communicate or diffuse tension is to avert their gazes around the other dog, or look down at the ground. So a hard stare directly on another dog is a bit rude, and one that I wouldn't want to hang around with and watch to see what happens. And again, these are all early communication signals. And so what I'm hoping is that by talking to you about them today is that you're going to start to look for these communication signals and respond before things get too nasty. So get your dog out of dodge and get your dog safely away from dogs that may be showing communication signals that are threatening in intent. So So that's what I'm trying to do today. Let's talk about the mouth. So obviously a dog that's got an open mouth, panting, is kind of a relaxed mouth. There's no tension around the muzzle. That's a good sign in a dog. A dog that closes its mouth when it sees another dog and stops panting, again combined with that hard stare. There's tension around the muzzle and tension going up into the forehead and above the eyebrows, then that's again a good sign that the dog is maybe a bit of a question mark. I guess going from the head, then we'd start to look down the body of the dog and look at the overall stance of the dog. So a dog that carries most of their weight forward over the front of their paws and erect, so puffing their chests out a little bit, neck kind of tall and head positioned forward. That's kind of indicative of a dog that holds a lot of confidence and assertiveness in themselves. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but when you combine that with very stiff, slow movements, especially where if you're reading lots of tension in the muscles of the body, that would start to become a bit of a red flag for me. You know, is this dog just assertive, confident, or is this dog looking to start a bit of trouble? You know, what I would more like to see with dogs that I think are friendly and approachable is what we call jelly body. You know, they're the dogs that are just very loose through their bodies. They approach other dogs with a bit of a curve to their bodies so that their shoulders are curving around their hips. And that they generally carry themselves with a lot of looseness, and it'll either be neutral or low to the ground. A dog that carries itself low to the ground is communicating submission. It's also a bit of their way of saying, oh, I'm just a friendly little puppy. I'm not here to threaten you or challenge you in any way. And that's kind of nice to see. Sometimes in those dogs you may see a paw lift. You know, they lift their front paw off the ground. Again, that's a sign of submission. And then I guess the ultimate sign of submission is if that dog rolls right on the ground and to their back and exposes their vulnerable parts or their belly. That really is their way of saying, look, I'm just submissive, I'm just trying to be friendly, I'm not trying to challenge or threaten you. And so that's kind of a good thing to look out for. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the tail. Often when humans see a dog and that dog is wagging their tail, they automatically assume that that means the dog is friendly and has friendly intentions. I would probably suggest that tail wagging is actually a bad indicator of how that dog is feeling. I kind of think tail wagging is an indicator of arousal. Arousal can come from fear, it can come from happiness, certainly, and it can come from reactivity or a bit of even predatory drive. So I kind of tend to think that tail wagging is not such an accurate indicator of the dog's feelings or behavior. But that said, if you see that your dog's tail is tucked tightly around its genital area, then that is probably a pretty good indicator of fear, and that whatever your dog is responding to, you need to assist them in getting out of that area as quickly as possible in the most happy, jolly way that you can. But just watch out, because sometimes a dog that's got poor socialization skills can approach other dogs with a stiff up tail that's just kind of wagging, but in a really short, kind of tense way. So that might be a bad indicator of thinking that dog had friendly intentions. It may not have. So there is actually a lot of amazing dog trainers that have studied dog body language extensively. There's a Norwegian dog trainer named Turid Rugeas, and she has written a book called On Talking Terms with Dogs, Calming Signals. And she has kind of theorized that calming signals are a dog's way of diffusing tense situations or stopping tense situations from escalating. And I think this is kind of cool to outline some of the calming signals that really well socialized dogs give off to other dogs. Things like head turning. So if two dogs see one another, one of the easiest ways that dogs can diffuse tense situations or communicate that they are friendly and not a threat is to actually turn their head to the side it almost looks like they're ignoring the other dog, but by showing the side of their face, that's actually a really polite greeting style. Even better if that dog turns its face to the side and then goes down low and sniffs the ground. So again, it looks like the other dog's being ignored, when in fact it's not. It's just a really polite greeting style for another dog that may sense that the other dog is a bit antsy or a bit not too friendly. The other thing that really friendly dogs do is that they soften their eyes, and lots of that averting the gaze, like we talked about before. They may side turn their whole body away from the other dog. They may do a little bit of nose licking as a way to communicate, either ease their own stress or try to diffuse the stress of another dog. So that's something that maybe you could start looking out for, and it's a very quick little nose flick with the tongue, and of course the ultimate play signal that dogs give one another, and a lot of pet owners I think do recognize, is the play bow. When you have one dog that's inviting another dog to engage in some friendly play, it's when they drop their forepaws to the ground and they stick their bums up in the air, and lots of movement, and they invite other dogs to play and engage with them. And so that's something that we see quite often. That's always kind of a really nice body language signal that dogs can give. So I guess the other thing that I think a lot of pet owners need to be reminded about is when they are, say, at an off-leash area, what does appropriate good dog play look like, and at what point should dog owners be intervening and stopping things from escalating before they do result in a dog fight, or before they do result in things being out of control. So I would suggest, starting off, play bows are really, really great to see. Lots of bouncy, exaggerated movement between two dogs is also really good to see. The most important thing that you'll want to be looking for between two playful dogs is an equal exchange or role reversals. So you've got one dog, let's say on top, dog A on top of dog B, and then they quickly switch, so dog B on top of dog A. Likewise, if they're engaging in a bit of a chase game, you've got dog A being chased by dog B, and then a quick role reversal so that it goes the other way. Dog B chases dog A. So there seems to be a lot of role reversals going on that's quite equal. If it's a larger dog playing with a smaller dog, then what we're looking for is something called self-handicapping. So that larger dog may try to do things to make themselves seem smaller. So for example, lying down on the ground and engaging in play with a smaller dog, or allowing that smaller dog to jump on top of the larger dog's back. And that's something that, again, is really lovely to see between two dogs. Chase games, I spoke about just a second ago. That's something that we do really need to monitor quite closely, and I would say that a lot of injuries can occur to dogs engaging in inappropriate chase games. If we've got that nice role reversal going on, that's fantastic, but if there's no role reversal and the dog that's being chased is showing body language signals that it's fearful, so ears pinned back towards the head, running low to the ground, tail tucked between the legs, and is looking like it's trying to escape but can't because it's being chased by one or more dogs, that is definitely something that needs to stop before it's allowed to continue, because everything's going to go pear-shaped for that little for that dog. And most certainly chase games where there is a larger dog and it's a tiny, teeny, small dog should be avoided at all costs, because usually that's not going to go well. Or if there's multiple dogs chasing a single dog, that's something that just shouldn't happen in the first place. So that's definitely something to look out for. I think kind of leading on from that too is just, I wanted to talk quickly about the spaces that we have in our community to exercise dogs. And there were suggestions made, especially after these recent attacks at the dog parks, about providing dogs with fenced-in areas. And there's actually been quite a lot of research in this area about what constitutes safe areas for dogs to be exercised, and a fenced-in flat area is probably one of the worst and can lead to some of the worst dog fights. Fiona De Rosa is a trainer from South Australia, and she presented at one of our annual conferences a couple of years ago. She's spent a lot of time researching what constitutes safe spaces for dogs to play, and what she found was that the best places were areas that had lots of elevation and undulating moguls and things that dogs could explore around, so strategically placed bushes, things that were designed to break up flat open spaces, because we know that stops a lot of the inappropriate chase behaviors, and also encourages dogs to spend more time engaging and interacting with the environment rather than becoming overly focused on the other dogs also using that space. I think also key to her research as well is encouraging pet owners to stop standing in the middle of dog parks. We tend to, as humans, we congregate in the center of a dog park and we spend a lot of time talking to each other face to face. But what we're not doing maybe when that happens is paying attention to dog body language and communication skills that our dogs are giving off. And it's also really difficult for a dog to stay stagnant in one space and be facing another dog and nothing really going on. So what I try to encourage is for people to move through a space or around the perimeter of a space. Keep the dogs moving, keep the dogs interacting with the environment, and that's sometimes one of the best ways to kind of diffuse tensions between dogs, whereas kind of standing in the center of a park is really where we would probably see large groups of dogs and people congregating together and not moving around too much, is where tensions can sometimes flare between dogs. So that's kind of, you know, what we need to start thinking about when it comes to dog park design that will really prevent a lot of these dog fights from happening in the first place, as well as educating pet owners, you know, how best to use those spaces to minimize some problems from occurring. I guess maybe after this live Q&A is over, what we might do is I'll put some links on the comment thread, some really great resources, links to the book that I mentioned earlier about calming signals for dogs. There's also some really great infographic artwork by an artist named Lily Chin that are very cute infographics that depict some dog body language communication signals that I think are really cute and really lovely. And there's also an app called the Dog Decoder, where you can download the app to your phone and actually test your knowledge on dog body language and communication signals. So I kind of think that those resources, if you're interested in learning more about reading dog body language, those are great places to start. And as always, if you have any questions, if you're watching this after the fact, you've missed the live event, but you're watching it later on, if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to put them in the comment thread and I'll hopefully get to them as soon as I can. Thanks, guys.